you aren't touched up your minis because your hand isn't steady enough, it's just the order you paint your models. I always hate it when I find a mistake. The more I look at a miniature, the more mistakes I see, and they all need fixing. Can I stop doing touch-ups by changing the order I paint? Is there some secret hack all the pros use? But I painted the same model twice in 2 different ways. I couldn't believe the difference before I started to fix where my hand slipped. The first model was painted from out to in, starting with the main bits like the cloak and the gun, leaving the bodysuit till last. I started by overbrushing World Barriers Red over a Hyrox Brown primer. Overbrushing is like a heavy dry brush, this just leaves brown in the recesses. This works with the red cloak. To highlight the cloak, I dry brushed it with Mephiston Red. I focused on the edges and the raised folds of the cloak. As the hood would catch the most light, I applied a heavier dry brush to the top of it to make it brighter than the other areas. Next, I started to paint any details with Baharov Blue, including the eyes and any light sources, including the light on the backpack, the ribs on the gun and backpack, and their little tail. Colour was bright and small enough that it didn't need a highlight. Then I moved on to the beige bits. I started by overbrushing the parchment with Steel Legion Drab. The inside of the cloak was stippled with the same paint, only painting the visible areas. After that, I went back and dry brushed these areas with Sandy Dust, focusing on the edges. I painted any metallic details with Hashux Copper, using the same technique as before. This included any detailing on the weapon, including the butt and bits hanging from the backpack. Any remaining metal areas were overbrushed with Lead Belcher, including the armour, knee pads, tubes, helmet, parts of the gun and backpack. Brown primer was left showing on the metallic areas, as this adds natural shading without needing a wash. This allows you to control where the shadows are, whereas a wash places the shadows for you. All the metallic areas were dry brushed with bright silver. I used Rufang Steel. This highlights both colours in one step. This can be used to highlight any metal, as the brightest points of all metallics are bright silver. This gives the copper an interesting burnished look, like it's been heavily weathered. To reduce this, you can do a lighter dry brush on these bits. Then the wooden part of the gun and the straps were painted with Mornfang Brown. The gun was overbrushed and the straps were layered normally. This is a rich raw brown that contrasts with the gunmetal bits close to it. This was highlighted with Steel Legion Drab, the same paint used on the beige areas, but as it's next to the other colours it looks different. Finally, the bodysuit was painted with Black Legion from Games Workshop. This contrast paint is my favourite black, it covers anything in one coat. I've made a few mistakes that need touching up. Is there an easy way to stop these mistakes? If you want other tips to help you finish your army, click the link below for our free painting guides. Now I'm going to paint the same model again, but in the opposite order to see if it looks tidier. I started painting the bodysuit first, as this is the first colour. I don't need to be neat because I'll paint over it with the other colours. Next, I overbrushed all the metallic areas with gunmetal, including the armour, gun, backpack and tubes. My brush control let me down when painting the knee pads, but it was easier to paint the face and other details because I didn't need to be careful of the red. Then any detailing was picked out with copper. This shows how this way is easier. With good brush control, you can just pick out the highest points. This is how painting into out should work with no mistakes. All the metallic areas were dry brushed with bright silver, adding a quick highlight. Any other details were picked out with the same bright blue. The eyes and lights were easy as they were on top of the metallics, but the coils were harder as they were between the metal ribs. I got my smallest brush and started painting between the ribs the best I could, quickly wiping away any excess paint with my finger. This fixed any mistakes. I used the same technique on the backpack too. Using stippling again, I started painting the cloak lining. If there are any areas I can't reach, I just leave the primer showing. Because I've started from a dark primer, it looks like a shadow. The edges of the cloak and parchment were dry brush beige, being careful not to touch any areas that are already painted. Carefully, I overbrushed the cloak with World Barriers Red. I'm trying not to paint over any areas with paint on them. If there are bits I can't reach, they can be in a shadow cast by the part of the model blocking the paintbrush. On the sleeve, I slowly moved closer to the gun, paint as close as I could without touching the gun. Then I painted the final highlights with a dry brush, focusing on the most prominent edges, folds and top of the hood. The top of the hood would receive the most light as it's an upward facing surface and it draws the eye to the model's face. This model had touch-ups too, just not as many. Was the order really what made the difference? Click the best sellers link below to try our range of dry brushing products that help you finish your army. I've painted the same model in 2 different ways, but which was neater? With the first model, I had to go back and touch up the light on the backpack because the silver was painted after the blue, the copper details on the gun because the other colours on the gun were painted over it, the silver had gone on the cloak which had to be touched up, and the silver tube on the trousers needed to be touched up too. That's 4 touch-ups for the first model. That wasn't too bad, as the model has a lot of different colours close to each other. There was a lot of big mistakes I needed to fix afterwards to get a clean looking model. But will the second one need less? The black needed to be touched up first because I was messy with the silver. Then the pouches on the backpack were touched up too. Finally, I repainted the silver bits that poked out the hood. Apart from the black trousers that were a mistake, the other touch-ups were further out than the colour that was painted over them. The brown was painted before the silver to reverse the order of the first model, but it could have been painted after the backpack. I will need to swap colours, paint the other 2 touch-ups last, which will take more time changing paints. Next time you paint the model, can you paint it quicker by changing which colour you paint first? If you enjoyed this video, YouTube knows who you are, so you'll probably enjoy this one even more.